By now, the entire world has gotten their first look at Marvel's latest incarnation of Spider-Man in Captain America: Civil War. And therefore, we decided to get a couple diehard webheads together and make a perfect new film to showcase Peter Parker and his glorious alter ego. With great movies comes great responsibility, and that's why we are going to remake Spider-Man right. Hello, my fellow cinematic architects, and welcome to Remake This Movie Right. You're a member of the Hollywood Outsider Network. Listen to episodes of Remake This Movie Right on iTunes, where reviews are appreciated, your podcast app of choice, or just visit the website at RemakeThisMovieRight.com. Remake This Movie Right is a show where we take an original film that has an actual remake in the works. This one has had about 4. Figure out what still clicks and what doesn't, throw a little bit of humor at it, and then we determine exactly how Hollywood should remake it. So by the end of each episode, of this episode, we will have a remake of Spider-Man ready to roll for Hollywood execs and presented to you in movie trailer form. We are here to tell Hollywood how to remake this movie right. I am your host, Aaron Peterson, and joining me today, he's my former co-host from our 24 podcast a while back, and you might remember him from the Green Lantern and Friday the 13th episode, Zach Parkerson.
Hey, Aaron. I'm here again.
Hey.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome back.
Thanks for bringing me on for all the comic book episodes.
We've had one.
Yeah.
Green Lantern. That was it.
I'm just saying, there's a trend.
Okay. And a first-timer here, but a host of his own podcast on all things geek from geekleagueofamerica.com, Jeff Carter.
Thank you, Aaron, very much for having me here on the show to remake Spider-Man yet again, because that's exactly what all the people on the internet want, is another Spider-Man remake.
Well, they do. Basically, if our idea is better than whatever Marvel's doing right now, I think they'll just switch it up. They got time. No?
This is going to be vital to their decision-making process, I can tell already.
This could be. It could be. Okay, now you both were invited here because we wanted fans for this remake. I didn't want people that, I kind of like the Spider-Man movie. I wanted people to sit down and talk about this movie who love Spider-Man. And you both love Spider-Man. I'm not saying you love all the movies equally, but you love the character of Spider-Man. Agreed? Everyone on board with that?
Absolutely. I love Spider-Man.
Yeah, I bleed webbing.
Okay.
That's a love, really.
I think it's probably the last time we all three agree, but we'll go with that. Hollywood has already let semi-fans take this one on. I think it's time that the fans take this back. It is time to remake Spider-Man right. So what is Spider-Man, says the guy in the cave with no internet. Spider-Man is the greatest comic book character around, in my opinion, as he was magically brought to life on May 3rd, 2002 via director Sam Raimi, as Tobey Maguire played the role of Peter Parker, who was a young teen who was bitten by a chemically engineered spider? Genetically modified?
Genetically engineered?
Okay, however, not the way I recall, but it works. It works fine. Anyway, he gains elevated powers of a spider, reflexes, spidey sense, strength, and of course webs that shoot out of his wrists. That's a little tweak on the comic book, but we'll get there. Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Willem Dafoe also starred. That movie took superhero films to the next level financially. It was actually the first, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, first $100 million opener, I think. That's pretty fantastic because movies weren't at that level. It basically established the beginning of May as the beginning of the summer movie season, as it is now, and I think Marvel owns the first weekend of May at this point. And was followed by a stellar Part 2, little bit less received Part 3, which was full of emo dancing. Then, I'm almost done, guys. I swear you can talk in a second. Then in 2012, Spider-Man got another origin story in Marc Webb's The Amazing Spider-Man, starring Andrew Garfield as Peter. The major difference being this Spider-Man had mechanical web shooters like in the comic, and Gwen Stacy took the place of Mary Jane. The first one was actually pretty well received. Then Part 2 came out, and Jamie Foxx was electric, and people didn't like it as much. The internet exploded. Spider-Man was thought dead. Then, somehow, miraculously, Sony and Marvel came to terms, giving us hope that the X-Men will eventually be back in the Marvel Universe. So
they're building bridges.
They are. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If Sony can do this deal, why can't the rest of them figure out a way to make this work?
Yeah, well, Deadpool director Tim Miller is trying to build bridges. He wants Spider-Man in a Deadpool movie someday. So,
do you think that would work?
They've teamed up a couple times in the comics to hilarious results. So,
well, no, I agree with that. I mean, in the film universe, because you're talking
it would be great. Yeah,
this Deadpool with Marvel's version of Spider. I mean,
yeah, Marvel's like
we haven't
version of comic characters.
We haven't seen the Marvel version yet, so we don't really know how they would really get along.
That's true. He might be a really foul-mouthed kid, and he ends up chopping body parts off randomly. That would be great.
So, no, that would be a fun twist.
It's not Zack Snyder Spider-Man.
Oh, well played. And timely. It's still stinging. All right.
He's like kicking the dog while it's down.
Email us your thoughts on this week's show, casting ideas, or your short pitch to remakethismovie.right@gmail.com. Remakethismovie.right@gmail.com. We might mention it on the next teaser episode. Normally, I do trivia bits here, but I'm going to save those so the other guys can talk. We're going to dig into the 5 films themselves, what we loved, what we didn't. First, here's a little clip from the original.
There are 8 million people in this city, and those teeming masses exist for the sole purpose of lifting the few exceptional people onto their shoulders. You, me, we're exceptional. I could squash you like a bug right now, but I'm offering you a choice. Join me. Imagine what we could accomplish together, what we could create, or we could destroy, cause the deaths of countless innocents in selfish battle again and again and again until we're both dead. Is that what you want? Think about it, hero!
Okay, now we can finally talk about the original. And actually, for this movie, there are 2 originals. I mean, there's the first series, then the second series, and all in the span of 16 years, we've had 5 Spider-Man movies. Jeff, let's start with you. What do you love about either the original films or the Amazing Spider-Man films? Either one, or both.
So, well, I'm just mostly going to focus on the Raimi films. I actually grew up completely immersed and connected to the DC characters more than the Marvel characters.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Super Friends religiously. I had Batman and Superman comics. I had the Mego Batman and Superman dolls, and I dressed as Batman for like 4 straight Halloweens in the old, vinyl Ben Cooper Batman costumes. But
oh, wow.
The one character that I did know from Marvel was Spider-Man, and I love Spider-Man, and I knew him from the Electric Company, and I watched the super cheesy, short-lived 70s show with Nicholas Hammond.
That was fantastic. Let's not say super cheesy. It was beautiful.
Yeah, with the big white rope webbing and the cheesy walking up the buildings. And
you mean walking on the floor and somebody just turned the camera?
Exactly. I knew that at that young age that Spider-Man was an iconic character like Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing that movie for the first time in 2002 was a pretty huge deal. It just felt like a big-time landscape-changing thing. And of course, to this day, it's the only movie released in the same year that has beaten a Star Wars movie at the box office. It beat Attack of the Clones that year.
Wow.
And I don't think we give enough credit to what that 2002 Sam Raimi Spider-Man contributed to the modern superhero boom that, we're living in right now. You had movies like, movies like Blade and X-Men knocking on the door, so to speak, but they were relatively grounded, reality-based action movies with like the subdued black costumes. But along comes Raimi Spider-Man, and it's this bold and colorful and unabashedly whimsical and fun movie with the accurate costume. And if you really think about it, we hadn't seen a big budget, colorful superhero wearing, a bright trademark costume in a movie meant to be taken seriously since the Christopher Reeve Superman movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's mostly was, like I said, Blade, Batman is all, very dark stuff. And I think the best thing about the Spider-Man films, the early ones, the Raimi ones, is that despite getting a lot of the details wrong, Raimi absolutely nailed the spirit and the tone of the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, John Romita stories.
What did you, or Zach, I'm sorry, you go too. What did you think? What do you love about either the first series or the Amazing Spider-Man?
They're all good. They all have Spider-Man swinging around. Also, you guys are a lot older than me. If you're watching like Electric Company ads, I just had the 90s cartoon show growing up, which I watched religiously.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. So when the movie finally came out, that was a huge deal to an 11-year-old Zach. I think, that first movie was pretty perfect.
I want to ask both of you, where did you stand on organic web shooters? Because that was a big deal at the time. That in the comics, he has mechanical web shooters, and he designs them, and a big part of the character of Peter Parker, if you're a comic book reader, is his intellect. He's a very smart guy, he's sharp. And by making it organic, it solved one problem, but kind of took away from the intellect, I think. So how did you guys feel? Where did you stand? Zach, where did you stand on organic versus mechanical?
The idea of a kid making that kind of technology in his garage was always a little hilarious. Because why isn't he just working at a high-level government facility or something? Why is he a reporter if he's got the kind of smarts to make that happen? So I was a big fan of the organic web shooters.
He was a photographer. He wasn't a reporter.
Fair enough. Touche. Also, it eliminates my least favorite story trope that happened all the times in the cartoons, which was him swinging around and then at the last second, oh, my web shooters are out. Oh, no. And then the vulture swoops in. He's got no defense, and it's a little tiring.
What about you, Jeff?
I did not mind the organic web shooters because I think good character work and good storytelling could trump, pedantic, plot elements or, details or aesthetics in a character. And I think it's a testament to what Raimi brought to the table that you just really didn't think about it. You were just completely engrossed in Tobey Maguire's performance as Peter Parker. He was just nerdy and awkward, but just so eminently likable in those movies that it just details like that didn't matter. So I was fine with it. And, like Zach, I agree that I was happy that the trope of him running out of web cartridges was eliminated.
Yeah.
Although that does add drama to some fights too. So you can look at it both ways.
It does. I mean, they kind of replaced it with Mary Jane's in Danger. So, I mean, they still had tropes for every movie, it felt like. I was, at the time, would be one of the trolls. Not trolls, but I was of the mindset that, no, you're messing with my Spider-Man. You don't And I was stomping my feet and raising my wrist and pitchforks and torches. Because I'm like, no, that's what a huge part of Peter Parker is his intellect. He's so smart. And he's been given these great gifts, and he creates, the webbing to go with it. And then it happened, and I saw it in action, and I didn't care. I really didn't care. I mean, yeah. I was so immersed, like Jeff said, I was so immersed in the world and bringing my Spider-Man to life. And I totally look at it as my Spider-Man to life. I was just in that world, and I didn't care. I didn't care what was coming. I mean, thank God James Cameron didn't have a piece of that like he originally intended, but because that would have been a little gross, which we'll talk about when we get to trivia. But I just love that it worked. And by the end of the third movie, and then The Amazing Spider-Man came out, I'm just like, why are we doing mechanical, man? That's just so 1960. Well, so I was totally won over by the end of that series. Anything else you guys love about the originals? Is there anything, or a great story maybe about going to see it, opening weekend, excitement?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I went with my buddy Mark, and we were, we're huge Spider-Man fans and Batman and Superman, just comic book fans in general. We were so hyped to see this movie, and we went to a one theater, and before we were set, the power went out in the theater. A bunch of people came streaming out. Apparently, it had cut off like right at the end of the movie when he's fighting Green Goblin. So all these people had to leave the theater and they didn't know what happened. So we immediately hightailed it out of that theater, drove about 20 minutes to the next theater over, and just barely got 2 tickets in time to see the showing. And it was, like I said earlier, it was just, it was game changing for us because it was Spider-Man right on screen. We had never seen that before in a big budget, screen accurate costume with Mary Jane and J. Jonah Jameson, and all the elements were there for a great film. And actually, something I noticed earlier watching the film again was that how insanely efficient the storytelling is. First movie was. In the first 15 minutes alone, the movie introduces us to Peter, tells us, communicates that he's nerdy, tells us he had a crush on Mary Jane, introduces us to Flash Thompson, Harry Osborn, Harry's father, Aunt May, Uncle Ben, sets up their relationships, has the spider bite, Peter's transformation, and the government threatening to pull Oscorp's military contract. All in 15 minutes, the first 15 minutes of the movie. That's just insane.
Yeah, and it didn't feel rushed.
No. That's a testament to what a great job Raimi was able to do with that. That's crazy.
Absolutely gorgeous. When I was trying to think of like specific moments of seeing the movie, Spider-Man is my all-time favorite comic book character. There's nobody even comes close to him. And when I heard they were making the movie, I mean, yes, the web shooter thing, I was like, ah! It's kind of like people were with Ben Affleck when he was cast as Batman. That's how I felt. But it's Sam Raimi is one of my favorite directors, so I was excited by that. Although part of me was like, why would Sony give the biggest comic book character in the world to Sam Raimi? Is this going to be like Darkman, a cheesy B-movie, adaptation? And to be fair, based on Spider-Man's history, I had good reason to believe that. Based on the Hammond stuff, based on, the other Marvel characters to that point, other than X-Men, it'd been like Punisher and just
Captain America, rubber ears.
yeah, just garbage. So, but then the trailers come out. I started to get excited for it. Went and saw it opening weekend, I think probably 2 or 3 times that week. It was my Spider-Man. Everything came to life. He's swinging. He's doing all of the stuff that on TV, all he did was climb on the floor, and then they turn the camera up. He's climbing up a wall. Look at that magic. Here he's swinging. He's alive. He's really doing it all. I never thought they would be able to do everything they did. The Green Goblin, a lot of people complain about that. Looks ugly, looks like a Power Ranger. Don't disagree, but don't care. That's how good the movie is when I don't care how ugly and cheesy your villain is, because the villain still worked. His threat still worked. His maniacal, Willem Dafoe just delivered it, nailed it. Didn't care what the mask looked like. Did that bother either one of you guys when you first saw it? Because some people were taken aback with the mask.
I mean, I was 11, so I was probably still watching the Power Rangers. So I was like, ooh.
Yeah, they brought a Power Ranger in here. What's that for?
Great. What a great cross promotion. Also, Willem Dafoe is perfect as Green Goblin.
Yeah, I agree. Dafoe is just a maniac. His facial expressions are amazing. And then the only thing that's unfortunate about that mask is that it doesn't allow you to see his insane, crazy, scary facial expressions. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen this on YouTube, but there's an animatronic mask test that they did that they were going to go with that actually looked like a goblin and it moved and had big bulging eyes and a scary mouth and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out on YouTube. Search for the Green Goblin animatronic test, and you'll see it. I can understand why they scrapped that at the last minute because it is pretty terrifying. I think kids would have been scarred for life because of it. But later, it didn't bother me at the time. But now that I watch it, the costume is not very good. It's the only thing that it's kind of like a blemish on a perfect face.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't hold up 14 years later. I'll agree.
Yeah. I mean, a zit in the center of the forehead of that perfect face.
The North Star. Yeah.
And I love the romance. The first 2 movies, loved the romance. The third movie, not so much. But the first 2 movies, I thought him and Mary
Smacking her around.
God. Emo. It was still better than Amazing Spider-Man 2, but whatever.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to, back to stories about seeing the movie.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So I was 11 when the movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
I had just met my dad not too recently in my life, and Spider-Man was one of the things we had in common that I could latch onto at first. And I remember he pulled me out of school to go see that movie on opening weekend.
So he didn't care about your education. That's what you're saying.
I didn't care either.
Nice.
I don't think anybody at any level cared about the education. So Spider-Man was flipping around, man.
You said you were 11, so
so.
Was all the kids, man, talking about school, I should go back. Were all the kids of your age group, were they just losing their minds? Because I don't know how popular Spider-Man was for that age.
I remember going back to school after opening weekend. I was the only one who had seen it. So I don't think it was that popular, at least not my hometown. It was all about Star Wars back then.
And it is now yet again.
Yeah.
It's all
it was
cyclical.
all about, Attack of the Clones, and then people were still talking about the Phantom Menace like it was a good movie back then.
Boy, that stopped, didn't it?
Yeah. But for those 3 years, everyone loved the Phantom Menace, at least if you're 12 or under.
Jeff's a huge Star Wars fan. Are you big on clones?
No. But back then I was still in the denial phase. Was it the 5 steps of recovery or whatever?
Even as a kid, I knew Attack of the Clones was garbage, but the Phantom Menace, that was great.
At the time, I was like, yeah, Attack of the Clones is so much better. Wow, they fixed so much stuff. It was like Star Wars again.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Boy, what blind love will do to you, isn't it? It'll just take you to different places. No, that love story totally works. Why is it like Dawson's Creek? I don't get it.
Padme and Anakin are like Hepburn and Tracy.
Oh, yeah. Definitely Hepburn and Tracy. And Tracy is unemployed right now.
I don't know what any of this means.
Hepburn, yeah, I forgot. You're young.
Get off my lawn, kid.
We didn't really talk much about Amazing Spider-Man. There's got to be some stuff you guys like about Amazing Spider-Man. But those first 2 films, I know the second one gets a lot of heat. For me personally, I think Garfield was a better Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
Not Peter Parker, just Spider-Man. I should clarify that.
I think in the first film, people say that Garfield is a better wisecracking Spider-Man, but I think in the first movie that the wisecracking kind of drifted into being a jerk territory. Like he's just kind of an ass.
Yeah, there were points. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think they fixed that in the second one to some extent. So I will concede that in terms of being the wisecracking Spidey over Maguire Spidey, that is, I will agree with that. I also like the... Wait, we're still talking about the first one, right? First Amazing Spider-Man?
Either one of them, but
okay.
I feel bad for
They're
Jeff.
both so good,
He sounds like he's reaching right now. He's like, which one?
I love the costume in Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's like a perfect Spider-Man costume, modern Spider-Man costume. So, and the chemistry between Garfield and Emma Stone was pretty sweet in both those films. But it's like 75% train wreck, 25% good stuff for me.
So not a fan of those two.
No, I don't like it at all. I don't like the darker, grittier tone. I don't like the Nolanification of it. I don't like the parents being brought into it at all.
The James Bond parents.
I feel like those movies were dark or gritty. It's almost impossible to have a guy swinging around on webs and be dark and gritty.
I think they tried with the parents storyline.
Maybe, but the second one was just so comic booky that I never got that vibe.
Oh yeah, I was speaking specifically to the first one in terms of like the Nolanification of it, like especially the opening sequence where little Bruce Wayne. Peter Parker, his parents leave, and it's all shot like it looks like a young little Bruce Wayne's like pale and black clothing, and everything's like all sodium drenched and color leached out of it, and kind of thing.
Maybe I just didn't. I don't know.
Hey,
but in a world of the Dark Knight, I just didn't see the Amazing Spider-Man as a dark or gritty film, I guess.
Well, you're a big fan of the first two, or those two, right?
Yeah, I'm a fan of all five. I don't know. Spider-Man 3 is a great film. I don't care. Well, it's not great, but it's a good film.
Yeah, great. I mean, you can't have the
really
emo scene and call any movie great that has that. I'm sorry. It's just
has what? I'm sorry.
The emo dancing. It's just.
See, I was going to say any movie that retcons Uncle Ben's death isn't great.
Yeah, that would be a problem too. So, what do you love about the Amazing Spider-Man films then?
I thought they were a lot of fun. I like Andrew Garfield bouncing around on the screen. I liked Jamie Foxx using ridiculous comic book lines from like old school comics. It felt like it didn't feel very modern. I also really like the soundtrack to Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Wasn't there a lot of synthesizers and stuff like that?
Okay. Well, when Electro was on the screen, there's a lot of synthesizers and electronic music.
So it sounds like
Amazing Spider-Man 2's soundtrack is one of the worst superhero soundtracks of all time.
I hope you guys fight right now.
I mean, I saw the movie with a group of 20-year-olds.
No, do it. I don't care.
We all thought the music was fantastic.
Maybe it's an age thing.
I think it has to be. Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't loathe it like Jeff does, but I wouldn't. It would be my least favorite of all five films. Put it that way.
Yeah. See, and everyone I talked to really liked that movie. So it might be.
It might be an age thing.
Might be a generational thing.
Yeah. But maybe because I think Jeff and I have that Batman and Robin stench, like deep, very deep. Because
doesn't matter what generation you're from. Batman and Robin is terrible.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 just feels like I said earlier, like a Joel Schumacher, like mid '90s, late '90s, broad, sort of campy, like not quite campy, but I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Just kind of outlandish.
You can't have comic book movies being outlandish.
It didn't seem to fit in with the modern comic book movie aesthetic. Like, didn't.
Yeah, I think there was a big difference, like a jump in tone to a degree, where I think the first Amazing Spider-Man, I don't consider it dark and gritty, but I see what Jeff's saying. There was a darker palette. It didn't feel as light and bouncy as the Raimi films. Almost like they were just trying for a little bit more depth. I don't know if they necessarily hit it, but I think that's what they were trying to do.
They're going for that Oscar.
Yeah, the Spider-Man Oscar. And then Amazing Spider-Man 2 felt like maybe they thought the too dark approach was too much, so they wanted to lighten it up and try to mimic Raimi's more comic book approach, and somewhere in the middle it just didn't collide, and it ended up finding a little Schumacher here and there, where it went for too much. I mean, too many villains, maybe a little too Spider-Man 3 too. Too many villains. The parent storyline was ridiculous. That whole thing was ridiculous.
There were two villains in Amazing Spider-Man 2. The Rhino bookended it, and Electro and Green Goblin ended up working together. So I will never understand the argument that there were too many villains in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Well, just because the number is high, like the movie is still structured in a way where there was only it just flowed fine.
That movie has structure?
I don't think we're going to get anywhere with this one. So let's go into what doesn't work, because people love to talk about what they don't like. So what didn't work for the original series? The one thing, like I just said, I thought Tobey was a perfect Peter Parker. an okay Spider-Man. I thought Andrew Garfield was a perfect Spider-Man, or close to perfect Spider-Man, and an okay Peter Parker. Actually, I had a really hard time with him as Peter Parker just because I have the character in my mind, and it wasn't the character I wanted. So it's
Andrew
totally
Garfield
on
was
me.
too cool to be Peter Parker.
Yes.
Exactly. He's like this smoldering, like hipster guy. Like,
He's skateboarding in the hallways.
yeah, no.
What a tool.
He should have been expelled just for that. So
He
what
does
about
this like weird, like mumbly, like twitchy stuff. Looks at the ground all the time, and is like has this weird, like, weird facial tick going on. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, girls dig that, man.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
he's playing the hard to get, hard to want. He was doing that.
You know, it's like they'd be intentionally embarrassed, and the girl's like, oh, he's so cute. Come on. You guys know how it works.
What did you guys not like from all five, any of the five?
The Nickelback song from the first movie.
In 2002, that was a hit, man.
It was
That was
huge in
the
2002.
song.
My God. No, but seriously, the rubbery kind of the CGI is a little bit dated now. On the it looked kind of bad, then, but the 2002 Spider-Man movie has some really bouncy, rubbery, fake-looking CGI, especially during the World Festival, the balloon parade.
Oh yeah.
When he's bouncing off those balloons, that looks pretty dated and bad now.
The Stan Lee cameo wasn't nearly gratuitous enough in the first film.
You needed it way more, just
Yeah.
more. Painted spiders. I don't know what the point of that was, but Raimi had a painted spider, and that's the genetically modified one that bites Peter Parker in the first movie. And I never understood the point of that, because he has a red and blue costume. You got to you got to paint a spider red and blue. What?
Yeah, that was a little on the nose.
Yeah, it's almost like these are the colors of the costume. I guess it made him think red and blue because he never actually saw the spider, right? So just an odd touch.
That first movie, I just can't think of very much wrong with it.
Oh, it's pretty
That's
close
all.
to perfect to me.
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons was perfect as Joey Jonas Jameson.
It is.
That's one of the most perfect castings of all time.
Yeah.
Hands
it
down,
has to.
right
It
there.
has to be.
Raise your hand if you still think he should be J. Jonah Jameson if they have him in the next movie.
I absolutely think he should have been, but too late now because now he's Commissioner Gordon in the Zack Snyder murderverse. So.
Yeah, and that's some kind of
Jeff's a big fan of DC's films.
you can tell that.
Yeah.
But I think that causes a rupture in the space-time continuum or something. I don't know if you
Have
can
him
do
be
that.
both. I don't care.
Hey, I wouldn't mind.
He's bald in real life, right? He could just put a toupee on.
Exactly.
My biggest problem, I'll tell you right now, with the Amazing Spider-Man films, it's the one thing that I just couldn't get over no matter how hard I tried, that they omitted: with great power comes great responsibility.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That was criminal. Absolutely.
Yeah, that was crap.
Alluding to it is not good enough for me.
No.
Yeah, Martin Sheen had some ridiculous thing at the end of the movie, right? Where he's like, if you can do the right thing, you should, or something stupid on the voicemail.
Yeah, it was not appreciated.
I'm not going to lie to you. I did not rewatch The Amazing Spider-Man for this podcast.
That's okay. I think it sounds like Jeff didn't.
Yeah,
he
it seemed like nobody was going to mind, so.
No. Also, I will say that Sally Field was a big problem for me too as Aunt May. She just didn't disappear into that role. I just looked at the screen and I was like, oh, it's Sally Field. It's like,
Yeah, she didn't look all that Aunt May-ish.
no. Plus, she just came out recently and said that she only did the movie because her friend was the casting director and she was ill at one point and just did it for her as like a favor. So she wasn't really into it.
You gotta pay those bills somehow, man.
She's got nothing on Rosemary Harris. That was pitch perfect casting as well.
Oh man, when she gives that speech in Spider-Man 2, when they're moving or whatever, and she's like the hero speech. Oh, right in the feels.
Niagara Falls, Frankie Angel.
Yeah, I still tear up every time. The hero in all of us.
Yep. The other thing, I talked about it briefly, but using Gwen Stacy's death for Mary Jane. When Mary Jane's dangled over that bridge in the first movie, that is Gwen Stacy's moment, damn it. And they gave it to Mary Jane and then didn't even kill her. Now, I do give Marc Webb credit or Emma Stone credit for not coming back saying she'd do a third movie or whatever, but I give him credit for being willing to kill the character, because I thought that was actually a sweet moment. I thought it was actually handled pretty well. In a movie that was all over the map, I thought that scene was handled very well. But, it belonged on that bridge. she should have died with the Green Goblin. That's how it should have happened on that bridge. And I felt bad that we didn't get that perfect shot that I always wanted, I guess.
Well, I haven't read that comic in a while, but in the comic, does the Green Goblin also have a cable car full of kids in the other hand dangling, or?
I think so, actually. I'm trying to remember exactly how it went, but I believe so. It was basically he had to choose, and she died.
I thought that was just a hostage situation on the bridge, and the Goblin was losing the fight, so he shoved her off.
Well, that could have been it too. I
Could
just
be wrong.
remember she
And
died
then
on the
he
bridge.
caught her in the web, and it snapped her neck.
See, I loved how they had that classic like superhero make a choice scenario in that film. I think it worked so well, and plus you have that great moment of all the New Yorkers on the bridge going, if you mess with Spider-Man, you mess with New York. You mess with one of us, you mess with all
of us.
So
I also love that he goes after the girl first. I'm just saying, he made the right call. If you have to sacrifice one of them, it's got to be the kids.
Wow.
You got to make a choice.
Okay, and the last being for me the retconning of Uncle Ben's death. That was, I don't know what they were thinking with that one.
I remember watching that movie in the theater, and it was like, that was unbelievable. It's one of the few, you can't touch that. That's ridiculous.
I know.
Yeah. And to come back to it 2 movies later, just to sell some motivation for him to go all emo.
It defines everything about Spider-Man, that death. You're just going to retcon it? Like come on, Raimi.
He did.
You got bills to pay, but dang.
He paid him.
You got to get Bruce Campbell a job or whatever.
Okay, so a little bit of trivia. If you guys got any trivia, feel free to throw this in there, okay? From Spider-Man 2, and this is courtesy of IMDb, so it's only as reliable as that information.
Ooh.
Hugh Jackman revealed that he was supposed to, and Jeff, you might know if this is true or not, but he revealed that he was supposed to have a brief cameo as Wolverine. Jackman actually showed up in New York to film the scene, but the entire plan was scrapped when the crew couldn't get access to the Wolverine costume from X-Men.
Yeah, that is absolutely true.
Wow.
Isn't the Wolverine costume just him in jeans with a tank top on?
Yeah. I'm kind of glad that never happened.
Now, so at the time, that means they were working together, like they were willing to do it. Fox and Sony and Marvel were willing to play ball.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that or they just didn't care. Like, they didn't know.
Right,
They didn't
'cause
know what it meant.
Yeah, they didn't have cinematic universes in their mind at that time anyway, so
They're like, fine, whatever. Let the nerds celebrate. Who cares?
yeah, we're not going anywhere with this. Let's just throw them in there for one-off thing. Yeah.
All right, well, the scene in which Peter Parker catches Mary Jane's lunch in the tray involved no CGI. I think a lot of people already know that one. But with the help of a sticky substance to keep the tray planet on his hand, Tobey Maguire eventually, after several takes, actually performs that stunt exactly as you see it, which is very cool.
Yeah, I think
That's not true.
No, I think it
what
is
was
true.
what was the sticky substance?
That is a personal question. No, I heard that. I remember seeing that in the DVD somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like Raimi mentioned that in the commentary.
Yeah, maybe that's
right before he was trying to sell Uncle Ben's old car.
One of the reasons why Sam Raimi was a popular choice with Sony for the director's gig was because he is an avid comic book collector in his private life with a collection of over 25,000. That's the days when they would actually hire fans of the comic to direct the movies.
That's a man.
Yeah. Biological web shooters were actually James Cameron's idea. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he originally wrote the first Spider-Man script, and he wanted to go with organic web shooters, and Raimi just agreed that it made sense.
Was his script 4 hours long?
Yes, probably. And there was a boat, and it sank, and a lot of people died. The hostage full of kids would have hit the river. They would have died.
Going to get into the gross details of the James Cameron treatment.
No, go ahead, please. Take it away.
Yeah. Ooh, I don't know anything about his treatment.
Yeah, so James Cameron's 1992 treatment featured as villains Sandman, Electro, and also there was an appearance by Doc Ock, who he wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger to play.
Mm-hmm, that makes sense.
Spider-Man and Mary Jane have a sex scene in a giant web strung up between buildings.
That's awesome.
And, and when Peter first gets his powers, he wakes up in bed one morning, stuck to his sheets, encased in sticky white webbing. Yes, that's right. Masturbation metaphors.
Go Cameron. Go James Cameron.
Rad. If you had spider powers, you're telling me you wouldn't do that with your girl?
This is getting out of control.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but
Yeah.
it's wrong for my Spider-Man movie. How's that? Is that an answer?
Yeah, you want that in between the panels.
It was a very adult take on
That's a
Spider-Man.
weird take.
Yeah, it's the Spider-Man Returns. That's what that is. That's not the Spider-Man.
That sounds like Cameron. I read an interview with him once about Avatar in Playboy.
Yeah, that sounds about
that
right.
sounds exactly like the kind of movie he would write.
I got one other bit of trivia for
sure,
you.
go ahead.
After filming the first Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire did a Seabiscuit, and he hurt his back during it.
Mm-hmm.
He almost did not make it to shoot Spider-Man 2, and they were going to replace him with Jake Gyllenhaal.
That'd have been okay.
You know what? Now, looking back, that would actually be okay. But then I probably would have screamed at the top of my lungs. But now I would actually, because I think he's one of the greatest, the best actors
He's
working
so
today.
good.
Yeah,
I guess he actually was the second choice.
man.
So.
What a world we could have lived in.
I mean, he's got a unibrow. I would have had to get past that, but makeup can take care of that, right? Pluck a few, be fine. He looks just like his sister, so she could double for him. What? Maggie Gyllenhaal's not attractive.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, she's ugly. I get it.
All right. So the big question, guys.
Quick trivia.
Oh,
did you know
you
Lucy
got-
Lawless had a cameo?
In
Yes.
the
I never knew that.
first
I learned
movie.
that this time.
Who
I never
was
watched
she?
Xena, so I watched Spartacus, and then
has
I
a-
recognized her.
She has a
This
red
time.
wig on, I think.
Yeah, she says, "Guy with 8 arms." Sounds kind of hot.
Really?
Yeah. There we go.
Okay.
Learned you something.
Yeah, didn't know that.
Blew my. I paused the movie when I was rewatching it. Like, that's Lucy Lawless.
Well,
She was on Ash versus Evil Dead.
It goes back to the the Xena days. It's Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell,
Mm-hmm.
Lucy Lawless. So
They're all buddies. I still am mad that Bruce Campbell didn't get a bigger role, but whatever.
Maybe he should have been J. Jonah Jameson.
No. I think we picked the right guy. The right guy was there.
he was a great
Bruce
wrestler.
Campbell
Sir.
as Norman Osborn.
No. I don't think
So I just don't know what role he's gonna play. Is what I'm saying.
Uncle Ben just throw him in the Bubba Hotep makeup and just let him go.
Listen, Peter, with great power comes great responsibility.
You know what I mean?
I don't know your fault.
Oh god,
Groovy. All right, let's debate real quick. Should this movie even be remade? Now, I guess we've already had 2 reinventions of the character. So, does it need a remake? I mean, we're going to do it regardless. But do you guys think it needs a remake?
yeah. I would have said yes before I watched the original, Raimi Spider-Man movie just hours before I did this podcast. But the movie is so perfect that I just don't see a reason to do another remake.
Mm-hmm.
But, there are some advantages now with this era we live in to doing another remake. We could have it tied into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We can improve some things. We can improve costuming. We can make things a little bit more comic accurate. We can put Peter's his science acumen back into play. All that kind of stuff. And really, coming into this podcast, I really was torn between, doing the remake or if you guys agreed with me on doing a story where Spider-Man is about to graduate college or even out of college, like an older Spider-Man type story where he's already established. I would have gone along with that if you guys want to do something like that too. So
Okay, so you're open to...
I'm open.
Okay. Zach, what about you? Do you think it needs a remake?
No. Everyone knows who Spider-Man is. Could we just James Bond it?
If we could.
Just like a new actor, just like a new. We don't need another reboot, right?
I would concur, but I think they consider a reboot anything that's new cast. They consider that a reboot.
Yeah, I'd be okay with like a soft reboot. I just don't need to be told who Spider-Man is again. I also don't need him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but that's a whole other conversation.
Well, we're coming there. That's what's next. Right now, here's one more clip this is from The Amazing Spider-Man.
I knew you'd come back.
Yeah, thanks for stepping up for me. You're the bravest kid I've ever seen.
I'm gonna take care of this chick. You go take care of your mom, okay? All right, get out of here. Go. Go.
You fight me? You fight me now?
On behalf of the fine people in New York City and real rhinos everywhere, I ask you to put your mechanized paws in the air.
I crushed so I killed. I destroyed.
You want me to come down there so you can kill me?
Yes.
I'll be right there.
There's no place like home.
Okay, so now we're back. Now we're to the remake. Here's what we know about the intended remake. Sony, at one point, got with Marvel and they worked out a deal. So Marvel actually can make Spider-Man movies. Jeff, you run a whole website and Facebook page that basically is devoted to news like this. Do you know what spurred this talk?
Well, basically it was Amazing Spider-Man 2 failing to hit the target box office gross that the Sony execs were hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
Hoping to use Amazing Spider-Man 2 as a launching point to launch an entire contained Spider-Man universe with a Venom movie and a Sinister Six movie and a Black Cat movie and even there was talk of an Aunt May prequel movie. It was just completely out of hand. So once
that all sounds amazing.
Once that blew up in their faces, Sony had Amy Pascal was, I believe she lost her job over this whole thing.
Well, I think it was over a lot of things. There's a hack and
the whole Sony email hack thing going on. Well, anyway, she somehow teamed up with Kevin Feige, who, as we all know, is the mastermind of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he basically said, "Hey, look, let's team up. You know, you guys fund this thing and distribute it, and we'll lend you our creative department, and we'll integrate Spidey into the cinematic universe, and we'll profit share, and everybody will be happy, and the audience will be happy, and we'll hopefully do a $1 billion plus with this new Spider-Man movie, and throw him in Civil War and raise his profile, get him involved in the universe, and off we go." And that's the story.
And now we're gonna have Spider-Man Homecoming coming out in 2017. Why are you laughing? You chuckling at the obvious?
You thought that red and blue spider was on the nose.
Yeah.
Very funny title, yes.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the title. I mean, I get it. I think it is a little on the nose, but
it's a little cheeky too, right?
Well, I think it's a double meaning because I'm sure there's going to be a homecoming dance probably. I mean, he's a younger Peter Parker, and Tom Holland is our new Peter Parker.
Yep.
Seems great. I've seen some video of this kid doing some flips. He's pretty fantastic. I don't know if he's going to do his own stunts or not, but
I don't know who he is.
Several reviewers so far have stated that he is the best Peter Parker and the best Spider-Man ever.
What, current reviewers are saying the Marvel version of something was the best? Whoa!
Got a point.
Oh no, you're not one of those tinfoil hat Disney pays critics, are you?
Oh, he might.
No, I don't think they pay critics, but I do think that like they're a little too hilariously forgiving.
I think it's way too early. He would have to have his own movie before I would make those proclamations. I mean, when his movie comes out, then we'll talk.
Yeah.
But this episode is actually going to be releasing the weekend of Captain America Civil War. So by the time people are listening to this, they probably already know how they feel about Spider-Man, whichever way it is. Which
I'm sure he's the best.
I'm sure he'll be very good. I don't know about the best, because that would mean negating the Raimi films, and I'm not doing that. So
I feel like the revisionist policy on those Raimi films are that they were campy and lame.
What? Who says that?
Trolls.
People these days, man. Yeah.
Oh, those people can
Kids
shut
today
up.
with their
Yeah, he's actually right. My generation, the kids today. he's actually right.
Same people that think the old Superman is too weak. That generation.
Yeah, well, I don't know. This generation also hates Batman vs Superman.
I like that movie. I don't think it's deep, but I like the movie.
Yeah, but they're both named Martha.
That's true. Peter Parker's mom's probably named Martha too. Just throw him in the mix.
Wouldn't it be an awesome thing to do?
It's a trifecta.
Sorry.
All right. Let's remake it. Let's make the movie we want to make. So Marvel's doing what they're doing. That's great. I'm sure that movie will be wonderful, but I think we can do it better. Basically, we can make this movie however we want to make it. The rules are, if you've never listened to a podcast, all three of us are basically going to pitch our ideas, what we like, what we think we should do, what direction we should go. Everybody's going to get their turn, and then we're all going to get together and mold one movie out of it. The only caveat is that whatever we go forward with, two people at least have to agree on. So two of the three have to agree, and then we move on. So if there's a villain and two of us like it, we'll go to the next one. If two of us don't like it, it's scrapped. The caveat is, unless someone yells cut. If anyone yells cut, they get one of these per episode. For the rest of this episode, you get one cut. If there's something you're very passionate about, you want to go a certain direction, certain villain, whatever, you can yell cut, scrap that person that talking's idea, and you can use your own. Everybody understand this rule?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Who's got an idea? Who wants to throw out an idea first? And then we'll go from there. We'll each take our little turn, and then we'll get into the nuts and bolts.
I've got one.
Okay.
It's not really an idea. It's more of a sort of a rule, I guess, I want to throw out there. And I would like to just say that tonality is going to be a very important element when telling this new Spider-Man story we're going to come up with. I don't want to hear the words dark and gritty anywhere near this movie.
Okay.
What about a Nolanification?
Nullification, no nullification, no Snyder murderverse elements.
I love it called the Murderverse.
Because he killed people.
Spider-Man should be a colorful, adventurous, lighthearted story with elements of teen romance. Remember, Stan Lee wrote a metric ton of romance comics before working on Spidey, and coming-of-age stories. Added to that, there should be no overstuffed plot elements or universe building. These are the traps that Marc Webb's Spider-Man movies fell into, the Amazing movies fell into, and one of the many egregious sins committed against Spider-Man by the Amazing films is the disastrous decision to make Peter's long-lost parents a central focus of his arc. And any remake should keep a wide berth from Mary and Richard Parker. There's a good reason why in over 60 years of Spider-Man stories in the comic books, they only appeared like in 2 or 3 storylines. It's because they are essentially irrelevant to Peter's narrative, who he is as a character. Any familial storytelling elements, any sense of love or moral upbringing Peter has been instilled with comes from Aunt May and Uncle Ben. They're all you need to tell a complete Spider-Man story, and they're all the parental guidance and emotional support he needs. So I propose A, adventurous tone, and B, no parents.
Hey, I can concur with that. I don't want the parents either. So
He has parents. They're Aunt May and Uncle Ben.
hey,
Exactly.
there you go.
There's a line in the first Spider-Man movie where he says, I had a father. His name was Ben Parker.
Yeah, and then Goblin gets stuck with a glider. See, that's why you don't speak bad about Uncle Ben.
All right, I'm on board with that. So that works. Adventurous tone, no parents. Zach, what do you have to get the ball rolling? Anything?
I mean, I think a love story needs to be a big part of any Spider-Man story worth telling. Like he said at the beginning of the first Spider-Man movie, like any story worth telling, this is all about a girl. So I think because Spider-Man stories that at least speak to me are always about Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane, the important women in his life. So I would really like romance to be a big focus of Spider-Man.
Okay.
As it has traditionally been. And also, I don't need any discussion of an origin story of him or most of his villains at this point. I think we can all just accept that supervillains get powers.
So you don't even need an origin story for the villains. Just like a flashback or a nod, throwback, or comment, something.
Yeah. You can achieve that in the dialogue. What drives them? I don't need a concurrent storyline for the duration of the film about the villain's origin.
I kind of like that. I think we've got the tone. We want to have romance. I don't agree with the romance, but you both do, so I'm trumped. Because I actually, the one thing on mine was I don't want a love interest. I want a love interest introduced. I wanted flirting, romance, sparking, hints of it, but I didn't want a full-on romance. But I guess really my biggest point was I don't want a love interest in jeopardy.
Yeah, I can back that play.
And it's not because it doesn't work. It's because they've done it in these movies so much. If I see it, I'm going to immediately be taken out of the movie.
So are you implying that you wouldn't want Mary Jane Watson even in this movie?
No.
If you had it your way?
My way, my perfect dream, I would probably have her in it and have it be like a flirtatious relationship that you see hints of something more for the next movie. Just leaving it for the next movie. There's going to be a next movie, so leaving it for the next movie. It's not actually, maybe they by the end of the movie they would go on their first date. Is kind of like how I would do it.
I can dig that.
But really,
talking about a first date though of a character, you're talking about then introducing a completely new character from Gwen and Mary Jane. Then, right? If we're doing a story set later in Peter's life when he's established, or
well, I mean that's the beauty of our movie. We don't have to. We can have Mary Jane and they just meet a little later. It's not in high school, or they were friends in high school, but they don't date until while he's working at the Bugle or something like that.
You could even have it be, if it is later in his life, like in the old comics where Aunt May wants to hook him up with a girl and she just keeps talking about her. And like first we see of Mary Jane, maybe the only thing we see of Mary Jane, start knocking on the door, going to the first date, and she can drop that bombshell of a line, face it, tiger, you just hit the jackpot.
Zach, you stole my thunder. I definitely had that in my notes.
Yeah, that has to be in the movie.
It's interesting though because everyone thinks you have to use Gwen in a Peter Parker Spider-Man high school origin story, but do a little research and you'll find out that Peter didn't meet Gwen or Mary Jane until he was in college.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mary Jane, like Zach just said, Mary Jane was just mentioned as a running gag through the high school years as
hiding her face behind plants and stuff.
Aunt May was like, I have a lovely girl that I want to set you up with. And Peter was like, no. And it turned out to be that you hit the jackpot moment there with Mary Jane. So,
and did he ever?
Yeah, there's other characters you could use. I mean, there's Betty Brant. Yeah, there's Liz Allen.
I like that idea. I think what Zach just proposed, and it kind of fits in what both of you wanted, which is the love story. And you also, like I said, all I don't want is her to be in jeopardy. I don't want her life to be hanging in the balance at any time throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do it in sequels,
when I was talking about romance, let me just to clarify. Those minutes ago, I was thinking of us rebooting the franchise as a whole and how I'd want like Mary Jane to be a running important thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're remaking just the first movie, which is what we're doing,
mm-hmm.
yeah, it makes sense to. I could see just leaving her for like the end,
and then maybe having a different character that he flirts with or dates or something, or just not one at all.
I mean,
or builds up to that.
Yeah, it could just like build up to the big Mary Jane reveal or something like that.
Yeah, he could have a date with someone, and it goes disastrous because he has to leave and become Spider-Man and do something. And
yeah, you could use Betty Brant in that kind of role.
Yeah, right.
There we go. Now,
comic fans get all excited because Betty Brant is mentioned.
So explain Betty Brant, because a lot of people don't know who Betty Brant is.
Secretary of the Bugle that he dated for a while.
Elizabeth Banks is what we're going to call her.
She was Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah, in a really bad wig in that first movie.
Yeah, big time. All right, so let's run down some of the big questions, and I think this will help put our movie in perspective.
Okay.
First, organic versus mechanical web shooters. Where do you stand, Jeff?
Mechanical. I think, we've seen organic web shooters, we've seen mechanical, and I do like keeping things closer to the comic books and, keeping Peter's science acumen and his love of tinkering with gadgets intact. Unfortunately, though, that does involve running out of web cartridges. Where do you get the material to make the webbing? All that kind of stuff. But I just like that aesthetically. I like that concept of mechanical. But it doesn't really matter. If you guys want to go organic, I'm open to that as well.
I mean, I only immediately vote organic because exactly of that trope of running out of web fluid, because any writer is going to fall into that trap, I feel like, because every writer in the comics falls into that trap.
What if we did mechanical, but we don't fall into that trap?
I mean, sure. If that's the way you need Peter to display his science intellect, then sure.
No.
Well,
but any writer in the room that suggests it gets fired immediately. No discussion. You're out.
I think in the Marvel reboot they're doing now, I think the way they're going to solve that is Tony Stark's going to have some kind of technological solution for him to help him out, and so he'll like never run out of webbing or something.
Yeah, I think Downey just announced when we're recording this podcast that he's going to be in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So Stark and young Peter will be teaming up to solve their technological problems together.
Okay.
But in this movie, we don't know. Is Stark around? Are we going to want to include him or?
No, never.
No, I don't want Tony Stark in my Spider. Here's why. It's not because I don't like Tony Stark or like the idea, but I want a Spider-Man movie where it's not reliant on other Avengers at this point. And I want him to have his own movie, his own moment, and be given his fair due and not reliant on other characters. And in regards to the web shooters, I'm of the mindset where I prefer the mechanical, because I always love the idea of this kid being this smart and him using it. He could easily use his intellect and get filthy rich off of it, but instead he builds this little contraption that helps him zip around the city and catch criminals and stop crime. To me, that is a much more, because he's raised by Uncle Ben. He's got a good heart. He doesn't care about being rich and using his brain to be filthy rich. He's fine being poor, working his crappy job at the Bugle, and he just wants to help people. That's what Spider-Man's, to me, the big appeal to him is. And I think if he had that intellect, he would still use it for his own benefit, for the benefit of others, not to get rich. And so that always works for me. But I agree, he would never run out. He would just have a utility belt with 1,000 or whatever it takes. I don't know how much you would have.
Just
on
never acknowledge the ammo constraints of the spiderweb.
There you go.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be talked about.
It's like a Michael Bay movie. They just keep shooting. They don't reload. Yeah,
we don't need to know how he gets the materials either. There's always a running gag in the Ultimate Spider-Man comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you keep affording this? Hey, I'll make it work.
So, is he already working at the Bugle? What's the vote there? The Daily Bugle,
yes.
the newspaper?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's in college then? He's going to start this movie in college?
Yeah, I would say college age. Starting college, mid-college years maybe.
Right, yeah. On his own, college age would work fine.
Other than Brand leading up to Mary Jane, any other friends? Harry or Flash? Flash does become friend when he's in college.
Yeah, I'd like to have Flash around and even Harry.
Definitely Harry. You need Harry.
Why do you feel like you need Harry?
The bros.
Exactly. That's
That's it. Like, they're best friends. Like, Harry is an important part of Peter's story.
Okay.
He is as important as Gwen Stacy or Mary Jane Watson.
yeah, he adds that dark element to things too. Like you never know what his true motivations are, and he's stealing girls away from Peter. And
Yeah, it would be really fun for comic fans who have already seen Harry Osborn go bad twice now. You wouldn't trust him the whole movie.
That's true.
right, but don't make him instantly unlikable like Dane DeHaan in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like he just shows up and he's like immediately a slimy creep. Like I don't like him at all. Why are you friends with him?
Well, you can't help that. Dane just looks that way.
He does look that way.
Poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. I'm sorry you look like a used car salesman. God. All right, now which villain? This is really what the whole movie hinges on. What villain or villains do we want in our movie? I got to say right off the bat, no Green Goblin because he's been there
I don't
twice.
think you can do Goblin again.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
So why don't you each take your stab? Which villains would you use? Your perfect movie, who are the villains that you, or villains you would want in your movie?
Oh man, Zach, you go first.
In a perfect, very Zack-centric world, I would have an entire movie where the Shocker is the villain.
Wow.
Tell people who the Shocker is.
Shocker Herman Schultz. He's a bank robber. He's got these shockwave gauntlets. He tears down walls with them. I know he's ridiculous, and I know he looks like a quilt. But
they can change that.
Yeah, man. But I don't know why, but I always loved comics with the Shocker. The video games when the Shocker was a villain, I was always excited about. I don't know what it is about the Shocker. I couldn't tell you, other than his gauntlets are really cool, and Spider-Man usually makes fun of him in some pretty hilarious ways. In my version of the world, the Shocker gets his own movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
That wasn't even a character that popped up in my
He never seems to
possibility.
pop up for anybody ever.
I have a couple of interesting ideas for villains. One of them is probably going to get shot down right away, but I thought would be cool is that Spider-Man does have a history with the Kingpin in the comics. So Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin might be cool to throw in there as someone to be a foil for Spidey. Maybe he hires some other villains to take him out. Maybe he hires a Shocker to take him out, or the Scorpion, guys like that.
That's Scorpion could be a good movie too.
See, now my other idea butts up with my rule that this has to be a lighthearted, adventurous, colorful movie because
Kraven?
Yes, Kraven. I would
Kraven,
love to adapt the Last Hunt storyline with Kraven.
Ooh, that'd be a rough first movie, man.
Yeah, it really would. So I can't really do that, but because in that story, Kraven defeats Spider-Man by shooting him, and he plants him in a grave, and then he dresses up as Spider-Man and takes over and starts beating the crap out of criminals all over the place brutally. And 2 weeks later, Spider-Man wakes up in the grave and he busts out of the grave, and that would be actually that image though would be a great epic moment to put into a Spider-Man movie where his willpower and his memory of his people that he loves causes him to bust out of that grave and take revenge on Kraven. But
Kraven's Last Hunt would be one of the most amazing 2-part superhero films.
Doesn't
ever.
Kraven himself at the end of that?
yes, he does, which
Yeah,
is
he
why
does.
it's way too dark. You'd have to totally rework that ending, and
Oh, you don't have
Kraven's
to.
difficult.
Let's teach kids what the world's really like.
Kraven's a very difficult character to break to, I would say, in the modern era, because he's got that ridiculous costume with like a big open chest and like a big lion's mane on there and a big mustache, and just like he's like the world's greatest hunter basically. So you could just kind of approach it from that angle, and I think Viggo Mortensen would make a good Kraven.
Oh, snap.
Sure.
Snap.
Because after I saw Eastern Promises, where he does a Russian accent, I think he'd be awesome as Kraven.
I didn't even think about it, but yeah, Kraven feels like a hard character to adapt to live action.
Yeah.
Just the idea of like this human hunter guy chasing a spider in New York.
Well, I actually, Scorpion and Kraven were my two, because Max Gargan is a guy who hates like JJ and Spider-Man. So I had that as kind of like a connective tissue. For people that don't know, Max Gargan, he gets trapped in a battle suit. It's like a Scorpion battle suit, and he's like he has rage for Spider-Man and JJ Jameson because he worked at the Bugle, right? Is that how it worked? Read it, but I'm pretty sure he worked.
I don't think he worked there. I think it was You're thinking of Eddie Brock, Venom, worked at the Bugle.
I think didn't Jameson fund whatever the
He
heck
did
happened to
something. Yeah,
Scorpion?
Jameson had something to do with him.
It was like a real sinister moment for JJ.
Yeah, he did something and it caused him to be stuck in this thing or be part of this. I'm sure I'm remembering it wrong. But whatever it is, he hated
I'll
him.
try to dig into the 70-year-old comic history real quick to try to remember.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, he was Matt Gargan was a private investigator hired by J. Jonah Jameson to find out how Peter Parker was able to obtain incredible pictures of Spider-Man.
There you go. I knew he hates both of them. I remember that. He hated both of them. So that was kind of like a bridge for me. And then I did want Kraven in there, but I didn't want Last Hunt to be this movie. It was kind of one of those things where I thought it would be cool to introduce him at near the end of the movie as kind of like a set piece, as in he shows up. He's like the fade out or the after the credit shot kind of thing, where he shows up in the city looking for Spider-Man. Because he's the one character I don't think has ever been adapted in any of the films or the old TV show that I remember. And
right.
I think that would be cool. I agree. I think it's too early to do that storyline, but I would like to see Kraven in there at some point. But I had an idea of like just at the end, and Scorpion would be the main villain.
Are you guys big fans of Kraven?
Not
vest. Huge, no. But he is a classic villain, so I have to give him.
I mean, when he's wearing the Simba vest, that's just not. It just doesn't work for me. No. But I like him. I mean, he's a Russian hunter, is really all he is.
Right.
But
I always put him and Mysterio in the same camp of a character, like a villain that seems very hard to write correctly.
There's a villain we should put in there. Mysterio. What a great villain he is.
Only if Bruce Campbell plays him.
Hey, I'm down with that.
Tell people who Mysterio is. There's so many villains, and a lot of people don't know who these people are. Jeff.
So Mysterio is he's a movie special effects guy who wears a fishbowl on his head and can create illusions and light shows to confuse his opponents like Spider-Man. And I forget what happened to him, why he does that, but he's basically I
think he wasn't just trying to like prove that Spider-Man must be a fraud or something.
Yeah, maybe something like that. But he's a movie special effects guy who went bad and wears like one of the coolest costumes of all time. Just a giant fishbowl on his head that you can't see through with like smoke inside and a cape with like eyes holding the cape on.
Using the word cool pretty loosely over there.
Hey man, it's cool.
Let's decide on villains. Now first, how many villains we want, primary villains in this? Because these days, I mean, you can have 1, 2, 3 apparently. I'm of the mindset of just one main villain.
What if we just have the opening action scene be him taking the Shocker down? How about that? Can I get that?
I'm on board for doing an opening action scene with someone. Maybe not the Shocker. Maybe the Scorpion would be good for that.
What is nobody likes the Shocker.
I'll side with you, Zach. Just because I don't know who the hell the Shocker is, go ahead.
Man, he shocks people.
As long so he's Electro.
No, shockwaves. Come on, sound.
As long
Vibrations.
Yeah, there you go.
They couldn't call him the vibrator.
Oh God, no, that would
they
be.
call him the Shocker. It's already pretty close.
As long as that's the opening, because can you use that opening to establish everything you need to know about Spider-Man for the 3 people that haven't seen a Spider-Man movie?
Yeah.
Instead of doing an origin story, you can have Spider-Man like sort of addressing the audience, saying some basic stuff like, "Hey, you guys know me. I'm your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. You know, I get bit by a spider and now I fight crime. Blah blah blah." You don't need to do any big comic origin stuff.
I like
It's
that.
a quick little recap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like that.
And then he can make fun of Shocker and how ridiculous he is in the opening narration.
That's fine, Zach. You can.
Now I got this clown coming at me.
So who's the main villain then? We give you Shocker and we get rid of him and he's in county lockup. Because I'm of the mindset our Spider-Man doesn't let people die. He actually gets them arrested.
I think he needs to learn the value of human life by taking a human life, like Superman.
God. No comment here.
Oh, I think he totally just said that for you. That's funny. So who's the main villain? Who is our main villain? Who's it going to be? Do we Scorpion? Kraven?
I don't think Scorpion's a big enough villain to be the main villain.
His story can be pretty tragic if he's stuck in that suit.
I got an idea. What do you guys think of this? Jeff, you brought up Kingpin, right?
Yeah.
What if, because Marvel does merge worlds, what if Kingpin is a factor in our movie? Throughout the movie, you have Scorpion in the movie, and you have Daredevil come in, and he's actually trying to get to Scorpion, but Kingpin paints him as a villain. because that would be somewhat in line with comics. And so Spider-Man's actually trying to bring down Daredevil.
So the Kingpin paints Daredevil as a villain.
Yes, paints Daredevil as a villain. So we have Spider-Man learning about, how to be a hero and who is a hero, and that heroes have different methods. So you have that as a theme to a degree. And you do
people really love that in Batman versus Superman.
Well, we could do it right. And you have that because that would also be connective tissue, because then Kingpin could come into this world and Daredevil could come into this world. Like, he's trying to bring down Kingpin, but he's everywhere where, like, maybe Kingpin hires Scorpion for something, and Daredevil's trying to get to him to get to Kingpin to bring him back in. And so Spider-Man thinks that Daredevil's actually a villain, but he's actually the hero, and they don't come together until near the end of the movie or something.
How quickly we jump to the MCU?
I was just spitballing. I mean, if you think that's dumb, just shoot it down.
Yeah, I think it would get a little bit too messy if you bring in other heroes.
Okay.
To the first Spider-Man movie we're seeing after, in this rebooted saga or remake or whatever this is.
In my world, Spider-Man never interacts with any MCU character.
Not even Kingpin?
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
No, I see. You're very protective.
It's a very isolated opinion.
And you want shocker movies. So
yeah.
I do like the idea of the Kingpin hiring a villain to take Spider-Man out for some reason.
That is cool.
But the reason would have to be pretty good. We have to find some angle there. Like, does Kingpin want something specific in Spider-Man's territory? Does he want to gentrify that area now for some reason? And at this point, so far, Spider-Man's just been a nuisance, but now he's like this symbol of hope in the city and a big thorn in Kingpin's side for his progress of trying to do his big plan. And
maybe he's like locking up a lot of Kingpin's high-level thugs or something. Yeah, where he was ignoring him for too long, and then and then he starts taking out his operation without even trying.
Right, and he hires someone that has some pretty big power, some good superpowers, or like Aaron said, a Scorpion, a powerful suit.
Well, then you could, if you went with Scorpion in that respect, then you could use Scorpion, because the opening with Shocker could be he was hired by Kingpin. Spider-Man doesn't realize that, obviously. He's been locked up. So basically everybody he has to try to get Spider-Man out of his way keeps getting caught. So he brings in somebody that he knows hates Spider-Man for whatever reason, because I'd have to refresh myself on the comic, but hires him to kill him. That's his one goal, is to kill him, because otherwise you just got somebody that's running around mad trying to kill Spider-Man for no real reason.
I feel like Kraven would be really good for that, right? Hire him as a hunter.
That's true. Kraven would probably be better for it.
High lethal predators. And then so he's in it for the hunt of the new prey.
That would be awesome. But I'm hoping that we get someone that has a little bit bigger of a power level, because one of the things I want to introduce into this plot is the moment from Spider-Man number 33. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but it's where Spider-Man gets buried under tons of rubble underneath Penn Station. And
you want the shot of him lifting the rock while the water's running over and stuff?
Yep. And it's apparently, like he says, even the Hulk couldn't lift it. But it's a moment where his sheer willpower, his love of his loved ones, helps him lift just enough to escape, and the water's running down. And that would be a powerful, inspiring, triumphant moment. I'd love to, and I can't believe no one's used that yet in the 5 movies. Moment.
And so you need a more powerful foe for that.
Right. You got to have someone who could rain down Penn Station tracks and rubble and rocks on Spider-Man's head.
My favorite thing about rewatching the Raimi Spider-Man is that it never gets to that level. Goblin he's just the persona of Norman Osborn taking out, to build his way to power, and then he just fights Spider-Man to get him out of the way. But the most dangerous he ever gets is one tram of kids. So he never gets to the leveling city blocks level.
Oh, the current Marvel level.
Yeah, well, the current every superhero film level.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that much destruction, but just enough so that he's buried in that stuff would be enough for me to have that moment. I just want to see that moment on screen.
I think you could do that without blowing up a city block.
Right.
You could have Kraven do that, but he does it as a trap. Like, he blows the station because he's trying to trap Spider-Man. And then you wouldn't need superpowers for that. And then you'd also have could set up the stage, because Spider-Man would, if he caught Kraven at the end, then he would be set up for not necessarily a second movie, but like the third movie, you could actually finally do that, the last hunt, because this movie would be more about Kingpin's plan than it would be, because people forget Kingpin is huge in the Spider-Man universe.
Yes, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why I said yeah. Absolutely.
And D'Onofrio obviously loves playing the guy. Yeah, I think
He loves whispering as the guy too.
he sure does. He sure does.
I like white paintings.
I struggle to breathe.
And maybe, fast forwarding to the third act here, maybe instead of having Spider-Man and Kraven have this all-out battle, I mean, maybe they could actually fight, but in the end, Kraven sort of finds respect for Spider-Man because he's such a great fighter, and then like reveals to him that Kingpin's the one behind everything, and then Kingpin and Spider-Man have a little bit of a fight at the very end. Maybe that could be an element. Just throwing that out there.
I would almost like the Kingpin, if he's doing this behind the scenes, to be the last shot that could build into a sequel. Like the big reveal that the Kingpin was behind it. I think that would be cool.
But then how would you connect the dots during the first two, well, actually almost 3 acts, though, because you've got Shocker who gets caught.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess you could do it like a mysterious person.
Just like a mystery. Like you don't, like he doesn't know why Kraven is on his tail the whole time.
And Kraven just is on the phone, and or somebody's shadowed, that sort of thing.
Because if we're doing it to where it is D'Onofrio's Kingpin, then people watching this movie already know who the Kingpin is. So you could just have like allusions to him, or keep it a mystery why Kraven's hunting him until you get to the end.
So now we're like building a trilogy out with Kingpin masterminding things.
The Kraven trilogy.
I actually like that idea. I mean, these days you gotta think that way. So I that makes sense. It really does. I mean, if you think Kingpin could handle that kind of arc.
Removing a lot of Kingpin scenes would give you more time for love story stuff too.
Yeah, more personalized stuff. That would be great. That's
right.
That's the best part about Spider-Man, right?
Oh yeah,
is a struggle to try to also be Peter Parker.
Yep, he's got to pay the rent. He's got to date. He's got to take care of Aunt May. He's got to buy her medicine, and he's got to do it all while being Spider-Man. That's like all. It's the juggling of power with responsibility. That's what it's all about.
I gotta say, it really kind of feels like a movie right now. Like it feels like there's a whole movie if we put this together. Based on what we've talked about, we've got we're gonna go mechanical web shooters. Sorry, Zach. And then
I'll live.
And you've got a Spider-Man who starts college age, roughly early 20s, something like that. And he's in the city. He's working for the Bugle, and he starts the movie as Spider-Man. Opening narration explains everything we need to know about this. He can do the "with great power comes great responsibility," or we say that line for the last closing out, whichever way you want to do it. And basically, he explains everything about Spider-Man that we need to know for anyone that is the uninitiated, as he brings the Shocker down, which I do have to say, in this day and age, really poorly named character. And then it takes you to, he goes to his day job. He's going about his life. He's dating, what's her name?
Betty Brant.
Betty Brant, thank you. They're starting to go on a date. It goes awkward. It's not necessarily a relationship that's going to go anywhere. And he starts becoming chased. Someone is chasing him, preferably without that ugly vest. But, you got to have a signature, I guess. He doesn't know why. We don't have this big motivation. We don't have that giant backstory of who this guy is. We'll learn that through their confrontations or through his research, because he works at a paper, so he can research and find out more about Kraven that way. Instead of having him having a continuing storyline along Spider-Man, it's basically told through Peter's research.
Yeah, it's just all through Peter's perspective.
Right, yeah. And that leads him to, once he brings down Kraven, finally, at the end, was it Penn Station?
Penn Station, yep.
Penn Station, or Kraven leads him into a trap, brings the station down on him, and then we see through sheer willpower, because Aunt May's got to be there, right? He's seeing Aunt May off or something like that, right?
Aunt May is still trying to set him up with Mary Jane throughout this entire movie, by the way, too.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
We see hints of Mary Jane, because everybody that's in the theater that knows the character is like, where's Mary Jane? We don't see her until the end. And you've got that scene that Jeff has got to have.
Got to have it.
Where he's raising, he shows sheer willpower, raises up and escapes and brings Kraven down. And then the very last shot, a criminal shot, is of learning that the Kingpin's behind it all. Now, would you put that after the credits, or would you put that at the end of the movie?
End of the movie.
End of the movie, okay. So would you end the movie on that, or would you end the movie on Mary Jane showing up, or him showing up at Mary Jane's apartment or something?
I would love to end it with, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot.
Yeah. I'm glad you agree, because that was going to be my cut if you guys disagreed at all. The last line of that movie is "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot."
Yes, agreed.
Oh, we got a movie. Marvel, you suck it. We got it.
You take Tom Holland and you walk away.
Yeah. I think that's perfect. I think we have a movie that would actually work. Now, you could use that Last Hunt storyline. You could use that like in the third movie because that'd be a really powerful ending.
Oh man, the second movie could be him trying to take on the Kingpin, losing. You can bring Daredevil in because Daredevil and Spider-Man is my favorite team up in comics. It'd be so cool.
I like it. I have no cuts to introduce to this, so
that's good
I'm
news.
Down with it.
I would pay like $9 to see this movie.
Oh, all right. Now we're talking. I would pay 10 because it's Spider-Man.
I would go on $5 night.
You cheap bastard!
Wow.
It's your movie, and you wouldn't even pay full price.
Yeah, you're at a website called Geek League of America, and you're like, I can wait till the matinee.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. All right, director. Real quick, who do you guys think should direct it? Anybody have any ideas?
My default comic book director is Brad Bird. If he hasn't done one yet, count The Incredibles, he hasn't done a live action superhero movie yet. That's like my default comic book director. But I'd actually like to see Brad Bird do a DC movie though, so I have no other thoughts about a director. I don't know what you guys.
So we got Brad Bird. Zach, any ideas?
I couldn't think of anybody unless you're gonna let me use the Wachowskis.
Dear, no. I'm gonna cut. No.
No, absolutely. No.
Alex Garland is the only one that I came up with.
Ooh, Ex Machina.
After Dread and Ex Machina, I just.
How about Drew Goddard?
He did Daredevil.
Daredevil.
That might be too
Cabin in
dark.
Woods.
After Tomorrowland, I'm on board with Brad Bird actually.
Yeah, Brad Bird can do any I think he'd be a great fit for any superhero film.
Yeah, I think he would bring it. He would make it light and adventure. The tone we were talking about at the beginning. Yes. Yeah, Brad Bird. You're right. Good call. Look at that, Jeff. You're winning some. Huh? We don't have so dark. And then Zack Snyder's going to do the sequel. When we do Craven's Last
He
Hunt.
needs to handle Craven's Last Hunt. Yeah.
Yes.
No!
He'll nail it. Oof.
Could you imagine how long it takes Spider-Man to get out of that grave in slow motion?
Oh my God.
One finger at a time, just clawing out.
It's half the movie.
And if it was Snyder, as soon as Craven was in that Spider-Man costume, he'd be stabbing the crap out of people everywhere.
He's using guns,
murdering people all over the city.
Tends to be the only time there's no slow motion is when the knife is going into somebody repeatedly.
Oh, there's so much bitter going on here. All right, now the characters. Who do we want to cast? I would assume Craven and Spider-Man are the two that we want to, and Peter Parker. So, because generally what we do here at Remake is because it'd take all day to recast everybody. We're just going to recast the two leads. So, who has an idea for Peter Parker?
I'd say Jake Gyllenhaal.
So he's the right age. Sure.
For this version, yes. No, he's old. He's in his 30s now, huh?
He's not the Prince of Persia anymore.
He'd pay a really dark Peter Parker. He'd be your Zack Snyder version right there, buddy.
The only name that came to my mind was Dylan O'Brien from The Maze Runner.
Yeah, he was mentioned as in the Marvel reboot too. So I like.
Yeah, he was in the running. You're right. Yeah.
Logan Lerman.
From Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay.
My Devin Bostwick, I threw in the hat. He plays
Jasper from the 100.
Yeah, he plays Jasper on the 100.
I was actually I just watched that before the podcast, and like one of these kids would be good for Spider-Man, and Jasper would be one of them. Yeah, absolutely.
I want Eliza Taylor
To be Peter Parker?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
no, I just want Eliza Taylor.
Yeah. Get in line.
Well, okay, fair enough. Dude, he's got the right mix of nerdy, quippy, and we know he can carry any kind of darkness that might come Peter's way. Dude, I'm on
kid who
board.
played Finn wouldn't be bad either.
He's too pretty, right? Is he a little too pretty?
Yeah, I think.
They're all pretty on the 100 except for Jasper. Poor Jasper.
Which is probably why he stood out. That and because for the first season or two, I mean, he's playing a very Peter Parker-y character. So
he's even got that awkward love thing in the second season. Yeah, dude, I'm starting to see this argument. I didn't even think of him, but I'm on board.
I'm on board too.
Okay,
sure. Why not?
Sweet. All right.
This is a big break for Devin Bostwick.
Yeah, it is. This is what
Bostwick.
He owes us. Devin, pay up.
Please call me.
Craven. Oh, you had an idea.
Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, I'm behind that.
If Viggo will do it.
Well, he'll do it. I mean, he's not doing any more Rings movies. He's free, right?
How old is Viggo Mortensen, though?
He's going to be like 45, probably.
You think he's that young?
No, I think he's in his late 50s.
Yeah, I think he's in his 50s, yeah.
Oh, man. Well, hey,
you think he can hang around for a trilogy as this, like, buff hunter guy?
He's 57 years old.
Wow, he looks great.
He does.
He does.
I guess if Harrison Ford can put on the fedora again, I guess we can let Viggo Mortensen carry around a spear in New York.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be fine. Are there any nostalgic moments that a remake needs? Like nods to the original film or the original Amazing Spider-Man or even the TV series? Anything?
The TV series.
Well, they had Nicholas Hammond in the original Spider-Man. He was in the World Celebration scene.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. True story.
Good for him.
Best acting break he's had in 20 years.
I bet he got free catering that day, too.
Best acting break for Macy Gray as well.
Oh, yeah. That went nowhere.
I struggled to remember who that was when we were watching.
I would like to see a Green Goblin mask like from the original film in the background at some point. I mean, like maybe you're passing a toy store or something.
The Power Ranger?
Yeah, I would like that. And I would like an upside down kiss scene as an homage. I just love that
I was
scene.
thinking about that specifically when I was rewatching it. I don't know if they should because I don't know if they could ever match it.
Fine.
It's got to be the most iconic kissing scene in superhero movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think you should.
That's dangerous ground to try to tread again.
All right. Any other homages or nods to the previous films that you want in there?
Just to have J. Jonah Jameson say, get me a picture of Spider-Man.
Yes.
Who will be played by J.K. Simmons again, no doubt.
Yep.
I would like if at any point we see Craven's like armory, or maybe like when he's checking into prison or something, he's putting his stuff in. I just want to see that fur leopard skin coat.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Yeah. See? Yeah. This is a dumb nod.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as the vest isn't somehow.
Yeah, I do not want him to ever wear it in a fight with Spider-Man, but I want it to be like, I don't know, on his wall or something.
Like his hotel room.
Yeah.
Hey, can we go back to casting for 1 second?
Sure, go ahead.
So the last shot of the movie is Mary Jane. Who's Mary Jane?
Oh, man. I got nobody. Because I don't really know young actresses today, and I'd probably just pick the same ones from the 100. It'd probably just be Eliza.
So, that's it, right? Just Eliza Taylor.
Do you have anybody? Any ideas, Jeff?
I don't know how old she is, but Karen Gillan. Natural redhead.
She's too old. What?
Too old? You shut
to be a young 20-something MJ Watson?
She is a gorgeous woman.
She's sassy too, like Mary Jane should be.
You know what? I'm agreeing with him because it's Karen Gillan. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. What?
She's 28 years old. She's 28.
She's 28. She could play 23.
Man, those are the hard 28 years she's lived, I'll tell you.
Are you sure you're thinking of the right Karen Gillan here?
Yeah, from Doctor Who? Amy Pond?
Yes.
I know who she is.
Yeah. She's great. She's gorgeous. She's young. She's vibrant. She's ready to be Mary Jane.
Spacious.
I'm on board.
Here's my second thought.
The two old guys already agreed.
Yeah.
What was your
Emma
thought?
Stone. She's usually a redhead anyway.
No.
More suited to Mary Jane.
She's dead.
I remember when The Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, Gwen Stacy died. Everyone was like, yeah, rumors are they're just going to cast Emma Stone as Mary Jane Watson with a red wig.
That would be funny. That would be funny.
Amazing.
All right, Karen Gillan, I'm on board.
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
Yeah, that old hag Karen Gillan will be our
ancient, I tell
Mary
you.
Jane. My God. And she's in another Marvel movie.
She looks like a mother of 5. I'm like, come on.
Wow, man.
Wow.
Wow, I hope she listens to this.
You know, she's listening to this. I don't have any shot with her anyway. So you know what, Karen?
You old bag.
Go collect your Social Security and get out of my movie.
All right, guys. Wow, that just happened. All right. So we've got one more clip from the original film, the best of the Spider-Man movies, in my opinion. Here's another clip from Spider-Man.
Whatever life holds in store for me, I will never forget these words. With great power comes great responsibility. This is my gift, my curse. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man.
All right, and that was Spider-Man, and now we're going to go to our trailer, our complete movie. You heard us ramble for an hour and some change, and now it is time to actually hear our movie in movie trailer form, provided by Wayne Henderson of MediaVoiceovers.com. Wayne, please tell us what our Spider-Man movie is really all about.
Living most of his life as an outsider, Peter Parker is starting to fit in. His job as a Daily Bugle photographer is going well. A new relationship is on the horizon, and his Aunt May remains a constant force, keeping Peter grounded. For his alter ego, though, things just keep getting worse. After taking down another would-be assassin known as the Shocker, Spidey begins to sense a mysterious presence looming on the horizon. A new foe is lurking in the shadows, a kingpin mastermind who has his sights set on one singular mission: kill Spider-Man. The hunter becomes the prey as Spider-Man faces down Kraven, the greatest threat he's ever known, culminating in a heart-wrenching finale at Penn Station you won't want to miss. With a stellar cast that includes Devin Bostic and Viggo Mortensen and helmed by visionary director Brad Bird, face it, Tiger, we've hit the jackpot. Next summer, marvel as we take to the skyline to reinvent a comic book legend, a hero who finally learns that with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.
Great job, Wayne. Great job.
Yeah, go us. And Wayne, too, I guess.
I have upgraded my viewing to a full price, not just a $5 night.
Whoa,
sweet.
Based on that,
you.
it's awesome.
Wow.
Spending that good money. I'm
Right.
still only paying $9, but I will be there.
$11.75.
Oh, man.
He's breaking the scale.
Is that what it costs where you live? $11.75?
It does. Where I live, it's $11.75. Yeah.
What about you,
that
Zach?
sounds nice. $14.50.
Ooh.
Wow.
Welcome to Chicago, son.
Wow. It's like $10.50 where I live in the projects compared to you guys.
Yeah, and that's if you're not going for IMAX or 3D or anything.
Wow.
If you get Fandango involved, they get their little chart, man, it gets out of hand in a hurry.
We have a fake IMAX. It's called XD Theater.
Is that the 4? No, that's not 40X. That's
Cinemark XD. It's like fake IMAX. Not quite as big as IMAX, but it's like bigger than normal screen.
You guys have reclining chairs where you guys go? Leather chairs?
No, I don't have those.
Nope.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, at least I get reclining pleather chairs.
Well, that's what you get for $3.
Makes a difference, I tell you.
Okay, so now I will say, Jeff, your page and website, Geek League of America and geekleagueofamerica.com. It's Geek League of America on Facebook.
Yes.
Now that you have this completed Spider-Man movie, do you think your boys, your fan base, your diehards, you think they'd see it?
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
Would you say
Because I
that if
tell them to see it?
would they see it if it wasn't your movie? Would you be behind this one?
I think so. Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right.
Sure, why not? A ringing endorsement from Jeff.
Right. I think he's
GLA
like,
stamp of approval.
it's going to be Brad Bird's movie. I mean, what more do you want?
In the words of Steven Spielberg, it's going to be great.
Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Okay, so Jeff, where can people find you?
Like you said, Aaron, geekleagueofamerica.com, facebook.com/Geek League of America. Our Twitter handle is @TheGeekLeague. Every Thursday, our podcast, the Leaguecast, is updated on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play. And if you can send us emails, glafanmail@gmail.com.
All right. Zach, where can people find you?
I don't know, man. I'm around. I'll be on this show. I'll be around.
You ever going to get back into a TV dedicated podcast like 24? Live another podcast?
If one is worthy of it.
You should do 100. You seem to love that show, so.
I would love to just talk into a microphone for 2 hours about every episode of The 100.
And then
It would be the best show ever.
Yeah.
I just have one quick comment, though, about the movie we just made.
Okay.
I want to use my cut. It's going to be Miles Morales, the Black Spider-Man. Done. All right. Everything we just said, it's now Miles. All right.
Oh, man. The world
See you guys around.
upside down. Drop the mic.
No. You can't do it. Would you guys like to see Miles' story? And for people that don't know, he's an African-American that ends up being Spider-Man.
He's
and
half black, half Hispanic.
Okay, whatever. What do you call that?
Blaxican?
Blaxican, okay. Mm-hmm. So do you guys want that story to be told at some point?
Absolutely. Why not?
Yes.
Got a cool costume, good story. He's a good character.
He has an amazing costume.
And Danny Glover would play him as a 45-year-old Spider-Man?
I hate that so much.
Or not
the
Danny.
Worst thing I've ever heard.
I said Danny Glover. What's his name?
Danny Glover.
Donald Glover.
Donald Glover, yeah.
That's okay. Donald Glover, also bad.
Danny Glover, I'm getting too old for this shit.
I would take Danny Glover over Donald Glover.
Oh, man, that's funny. Murtaugh is playing Spider-Man. All right, guys. Well, do you think we did it? Do you think you got a better idea? Whatever side you land on, email us your thoughts on this week's show, casting ideas, or your short pitch to remakethismovieright@gmail.com. That's remakethismovieright@gmail.com. We might mention you on the next teaser episode, which is only available to subscribers. So be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or just through your podcast app of choice. I want to thank Wayne Henderson, as always, for his wonderful trailer work that he does for our show, MediaVoiceovers.com. He also does a podcast for 11/22/63, which is completed on Hulu, but the podcast is still there. Go watch the show, and then you can listen to the vocal stylings of Wayne Henderson. I want to thank Jeff and Zach for being here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And remember, we do have a Remake This Movie Right Facebook group. Just join on up. And the website is remakethismovieright.com, Twitter @RemakeRight. That's going to do it for this episode of Remake This Movie Right. And the next movie you watch, remember that it will get a remake someday, and only you can make it better.